Welcome back to Mr. Magazine, the channel where celebrity lives are examined with rigor, compassion, and a touch of theatre. If you value unvarnished stories told with a steady hand, make sure to subscribe, press the join button to help support our reporting, and click like if you want more of these deep dives. Now, settle in. Tonight's piece traces the aftermath of a single televised sentence that rolled across borders and left two famous hearts altered. A television studio in Italy expected polish and routine. Instead, it received an admission that unfolded like an old photograph being torn in public. Yaman arrived as he usually does, polished, deliberate, a man accustomed to the mechanics of fame. He spoke of scripts, schedules, and seasons spent between countries. He navigated the conversation with the practiced calm of someone who has been interviewed dozens of times. Yet one question, seemingly casual, tossed into the air by a host searching for color, pivoted the entire evening's tone. "When you think about Sarah Bloomer," the host asked, "how does your heart answer?" What followed was not a rehearsed compliment nor a deflecting quip. Instead, an unguarded hush settled. Khan lowered his eyes, his smile dissolved into something quieter, almost private. For a breath that felt lengthened by the cameras and the microphones, he did not speak. Then, with a voice carrying the texture of memory and the dull ache of regret, he offered words that would not remain confined to that studio. "Sarah is a good person," he began slowly, "but sometimes the past lingers in a way you cannot simply choose to forget. There are names, there are faces, perhaps some never entirely fade." Meanwhile, in Istanbul, the broadcast looped into a living room where Demet Özdemir sat alone. She was not expecting a sudden return of old feelings. She had arranged her life around forward motion. Yet television is a strange mirror. Watching an intimate confession on a replay offered an intimacy of its own. Sources close to her later recounted the quiet ritual that followed: a cup of tea, the light from the screen warming a face that had once known laughter and heartbreak in equal measure. When the words escaped Khan's lips, she felt something familiar stir and then recede. After a moment of stillness, she whispered to herself, "It's finished." That resolve, however, did not erase the echo. It merely translated it into a new kind of strength, a refusal to re-enter a chapter she had already closed. The public reaction was divided. Some sympathized with Khan's vulnerability, others accused him of stirring unnecessary controversy. In the swirl, a maternal voice entered the narrative. Khan's mother issued a measured statement. She described Demet as sensitive and suggested that her son's remarks were spontaneous and not meant to wound. Her intervention, compassionate yet discreet, invited a tempered response from followers who craved nobility in a situation riddled with raw feeling. Across national boundaries, the drama acquired new accents. Reports in Spanish media brought the perspective of Sarah Bloomer into the open. Speaking to press outlets in Spain, she described the moment as painful and honest, saying that dealing with a partner who frequently revisits what was once shared is difficult. Her account framed the situation as a triangular tension between remembrance and the desire for present clarity. Demet, however, did not respond with melodrama. Instead, she enacted a disciplined retreat. She upheld her professional obligations but pivoted away from televised confessions. In interviews, she preserved a guarded smile and answered private queries with diplomatic brevity. Then she removed herself from the metropolis of constant scrutiny. A small cove along the Aegean coast became a temporary sanctuary, no entourage, just a notebook, the salt air, and the solitude that comes when one chooses to hear their own thoughts without mediation. Public response to her post was overwhelmingly supportive. Fans and commentators rallied behind hashtags that celebrated transformation and personal reclamation. The language shifted from gossip to admiration. Her followers interpreted the post as a resolve to inhabit the future rather than to linger in a past that no longer served her. This episode illustrates an enduring reality for public figures: intimacy and fame do not always coexist peacefully. A passing comment can detonate public curiosity, and a private ache can be amplified into collective speculation. For Demet, the decision to step away and to reframe her narrative signaled a deliberate investment in inner life rather than in public rhetoric. For Can, the confession became a public act of honesty that, whether intended or not, reopened an old story. As we catalogue these developments, communities of fans engaged in vigorous debate. Some suggested reconciliation was possible, others argued for a permanent severing of ties. Both positions reveal the human tendency to seek closure or redemption. Perhaps the truest observation is that time does not uniformly heal, sometimes it simply alters the shape of what remains. Two people who once fit neatly into a shared story can find themselves inhabiting new trajectories, each holding memories that resist total erasure. Before we move on, Mr. Magazine family, we want to hear from you. Do you believe a past love can coexist with a present partnership without causing rupture? If a public figure expresses lingering feelings, should those admissions be treated as private wounds or as newsworthy events? Share your perspective below. Your thoughts matter in shaping the conversation we host here. And remember, if you value sober, thorough explorations of celebrity human stories, subscribe to Mr. Magazine. Press the join button to support our independent coverage, and hit like to ensure more productions like this are possible. Engagement helps us continue to produce long-form narratives that honor complexities rather than reduce them to headlines. Was this the definitive end of their chapter? The answer depends on one's faith in narrative closure. Publicly, both declared orientations toward the future. Privately, the residue of shared history persisted, as it often does for anyone who has loved deeply. The final image for now is neither tragedy nor triumph. It is a pair of individuals navigating separate paths while carrying an invisible archive of what once was. To close this segment, love in the light of cameras is complicated by the pressure of audience expectation. People make decisions both for themselves and for how they will be perceived. When those choices are announced, emotionally or casually, they ripple outward unpredictably. What we witnessed in that Italian studio was less an ending than a human moment, a confession that revealed the messy persistence of memory. Before we sign off, a reminder from your favorite corner of celebrity journalism: support independent storytelling by subscribing to Mr. Magazine, tapping join, and dropping a comment with your take. Which Turkish star should we profile next? Who deserves a careful, compassionate long read instead of a quick headline? Tell us below so we can bring the next deep dive to you. Thank you for listening closely. For every glinting interview and every viral clip, there is a private history. Sometimes that history re-emerges into the light. Sometimes it remains in quiet places, notebooks at sea, slow cups of tea, the reflective space between broadcasts. Tonight, the lesson is simple: hearts remember in ways that do not always align with the calendar. They carry, they learn, and eventually they choose. This has been Mr. Magazine, where celebrity lives are told with honesty and nuance. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the join button if you can, and press like to keep us thriving. We will return with more carefully crafted stories that respect both public fascination and private sorrow. Until the next chapter, guard your truth and keep asking the questions that matter.